It's not every day that Iranians take to the streets in opposition to the government.
People are protesting because they are under economic pressure, and the government must be responsive in the face of rising inflation and its economic hardships.
For the third day running, ordinary Iranians and students defied warnings against illegal gatherings and protested in cities across the country. In Tehran, students chanted "Death to the dictator" as they clashed with security forces near the university. And riot police fired gunshots at demonstrators in at least one city in Lorestan province. Elsewhere, security forces held back with sporadic use of tear gas. These demonstrations are the biggest display of dissent since pro-reform rallies in 2009.
But what began as a protest about rising food prices and welfare benefit cuts turned political on Saturday. Earlier in the day, they chanted, "Not Gaza, not Lebanon, my life for Iran." Don't be afraid, we're staying strong together. An expression of anger about claims the government is focusing more on regional issues than economic problems at home. Iranian TV showed a display of strength by crowds of pro-government supporters in cities nationwide. Tens of thousands of people on the streets chanting "Death to America, down with Israel" in support of Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. The pro-government rallies were pre-planned to mark the anniversary of the end of the unrest that shook the country in 2009. Unrest in Iran prompted several tweets from the US president on Saturday, warning oppressive regimes cannot endure forever. Many reports of peaceful protests by Iranian citizens fed up with the regime's corruption and its squandering of the nation's wealth to fund terrorism abroad. Iranian government should respect their people's rights, including rights to express themselves. The world is watching.
You could see that the slogans are now becoming more radical. You could see that the atmosphere is getting tenser and tenser. And most of all, what you could see is that they no longer seem to have that fear from the security forces. They're at the end of their tether.
While this was a huge display of support for the Iranian leadership, the government will be concerned at just how quickly a protest about food prices could become political.
So Iran has strongly condemned President Trump's tweet that our colleague Steve just mentioned. A state television report on Saturday quoted Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson as saying that the Iranian people give no credit to the deceitful and opportunist remarks of U.S. officials or Mr. Trump.
Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman said that the rockets fired from Gaza towards Israel's southern communities on Friday were made in Iran. This is according to local Israeli media. Lieberman asserted that Iran is looking to take over and expand its influence across the Middle East, saying that Iran is interested in extremist ideology and how to harm Israel as much as possible. The minister also asserted that the Gaza-based group Hamas has no interest in a renewed confrontation with Israel, but trouble is still being caused by other Islamic extremist groups in Gaza.
According to the Kremlin on Saturday, Russian President Vladimir Putin has called for Russia to engage the U.S. with pragmatic cooperation in Christmas and New Year greetings to U.S. President Donald Trump. A Kremlin news release said that the Russian president stressed the importance of both nations engaging in constructive dialogue to enhance global stability and tackle challenges and threats. Putin said this would allow us to make progress in promoting pragmatic cooperation designed for the long term. The Russian president went on to note that the principles of equality and mutual respect would be the basis for developing relations between the two countries.
Russia says it will continue supporting Syria's efforts to defend the nation's sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity. Russian President Vladimir Putin reiterated his country's stance in a New Year greeting to Syrian counterpart Bashar al-Assad. Russian President stressed Moscow will provide Damascus with any and all assistance to promote a political settlement process and restore war-torn country's economy. Earlier this month, Putin ordered the Russian forces in Syria to withdraw from the Arab country. Kremlin, however, stated it will keep an air base and a naval facility operating in Syria. Russian forces have been assisting Syria in its fight against terrorists since 2015 upon a request from Damascus.
2 mass graves containing dozens of bodies have reportedly been found in the western part of Raqqa province in Syria. The bodies of civilians and Syrian troops killed by ISIL jihadists were discovered. That's according to information from local residents. Recovery operations are expected to last several days. The exact time of the executions remains unclear.
The first ship carrying Russian-produced gas has reached the UK under a new energy deal. The liquefied natural gas is produced by a company which the US put on its sanctions list in a move strongly supported by London at the time. The first round of Washington's sanctions were imposed in 2014 in response to Russia's alleged military invasion of Ukraine. The US has always been critical of Russia's gas supplies to Europe, saying they undermine the continent's energy security, with Moscow using fuel supplies as a foreign policy tool. That is a view that Britain has been supporting.
We have seen how countries such as Putin's Russia use their gas supplies as a tool of foreign policy, threatening to cut off supplies or drastically increase prices.
It's not in Europe's interests. It's not in our interests. It's also a political rather than a commercial undertaking. And there is an existing framework in place for the EU to take more aggressive action on Nord Stream 2 and similar projects if it wished to do so politically.
However, the end of 2017 has seen the UK out in the cold and in need of Russian gas. It all started around 3 weeks ago when the most important pipeline to Britain was shut down due to a crack. Then one of the biggest hubs in Europe suffered an explosion which led to a spike in gas prices. Moreover, Britain has faced an unusually cold winter with some blizzards and freezing temperatures.
And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reaffirmed Pyongyang's commitment to fight U.S. forces as the regime marks the 6th anniversary of its rise to power. North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported on Saturday that the country's military might and firm willingness will help Kim persevere in turbulent times where nuclear states flaunt their prowess and amid sanctions on the regime. It also said Pyongyang will not shift its policy on its nuclear weapons program, calling itself a new and strategic nuclear power state. Kim Jong-un took the reins of power from his father, Kim Jong-il, 2 weeks after his death.
We begin with breaking news out of Ukraine. A man believed to be carrying an explosive is holed up in a post office in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. This is according to the police. Local media have said that 9 adults and 2 children are trapped inside the post office with the man. The police spokesman also said that the man made no demands and that they remain unknown. Traffic is currently blocked off around the area. We will bring you more information on this story as it unfolds.
With a terror threat hanging over Europe, police here in Madrid have stepped up security for New Year's Eve. Measures include a ban on lorries and vans in the centre of the Spanish capital during the festivities. Traffic restrictions and the use of metal detectors are part of Rome's festive public safety plan, with tight security, notably around the city's main squares. And after falling victim to terror attacks in 2017, London's taking no chances. Amid a fireworks show centred on the London Eye, hundreds of thousands of people will need protecting. Uniformed police officers and covert resources will be working to keep them safe as the new year is ushered in. And Paris will be welcoming in 2018 amid tight security to ensure that celebrations on the Champs-Élysées will be remembered for all the right reasons. Germany's on high alert a year after a deadly truck attack on a Christmas market in Berlin. Barricades around the Brandenburg Gate will reassure revelers, and there'll be a safe zone for women after hundreds were molested and robbed in Cologne on New Year's Eve 2 years ago.
AfD party member in the Berlin parliament, Frank Hansel, believes instead of safe zones for women, it's migration policies that need rethinking.
We feel that there is a new step of danger coming into our country. We've seen it since we have to already build walls against our Christmas markets. This is a development we do not want to see, really. Policy should change. We should not continue to have this mass migration of illegal mass migration we do have. We have to count and see who the people are who came to our country. We have to register them. This is a process which has not been come to an end. and we must close the borders in order to have a stable society. You can go much further than the security forces or the politicians in Germany go. So that's a problem, and that I think this is not a good sign for the new year to come.
On Sunday, Conservative Chancellor Angela Merkel vowed to address growing social divisions as she worked rapidly to build a stable German government, following 3 months of failing to form a new ruling coalition. In her annual New Year's address, Merkel mapped out key priorities, including increased investments in security and defense, improved healthcare and education, and efforts to overcome growing urban-rural disparities. The conservative leader said, "The world is not waiting for us. We must create the conditions now that ensure that Germany continues to prosper in 10, 15 years. And Germany will only prosper if its success serves all people and improves and enriches our lives."
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Basic income has gained a mainstream interest as a way to reduce poverty. The system involves giving people a standard salary just for being alive, no strings attached. For 13 months, Give Directly began an experiment in Kenya in which villagers are allotted $22 a month for the next 12 years. The participants have been disproving the biggest misconception about basic income, that people who receive free money will stop working. Detractors say participants will waste the cash on vices like gambling, drugs, or alcohol. Anecdotal evidence and nearly all empirical research has shown that unconditional cash transfers help people help themselves. Organizers of the system have started speculating how it might play out on a large scale.
It's been a big year in the tech world. Here are the 5 most talked about developments for 2017. Artificial intelligence, AI. Sophia the robot, which is produced by Hanson Robotics, won the hearts of the Saudi government and earned herself a citizenship through her AI. Although this is a huge step forward in the use of AI, there are growing concerns with its rapid development. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, has repeatedly expressed his reservations despite extensively using AI for his own products. He called for government regulations, saying AI could threaten humanity. We witnessed a notable moment between him and Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, who is a proponent of unregulated AI, when Musk claimed Zuckerberg had no idea what he was talking about. Cryptocurrency. Crypto for short, surged in popularity. Bitcoin, the most famous crypto, reached all-time high prices in 2017, with one Bitcoin now costing more than $15,000 compared to $1,000 a year ago. While many see it as a quick moneymaker with minimal effort, critics are warning people not to be swayed by the promise of quick returns on investment, insisting that the currency will burst and many people could lose lots of money. South Korea and China have even implemented bans, and some hackers are reportedly stealing cryptos. However, its value and the public's interest continues to grow. Elon Musk. The tech industry's superhero has frequently been in the spotlight. Musk wants to colonize Mars within the next decade and at the same time revolutionize travel on Earth. He showcased his vision for interplanetary rocket travel this September, revealing his intent to replace traditional airliners with rockets. His goal? Transport people from one point to another in less than an hour. Meanwhile, he's pioneering the future of electric cars, with his latest fully electric semi-truck, which has already received multiple pre-orders from big companies like PepsiCo. Fake news. Video gaming. The ongoing debate on whether gambling has crept into video gaming took a turn this year. With the release of Star Wars Battlefront 2, the game was criticized for including microtransactions that allowed players to buy random power upgrades, leading to accusations of the game creating pay-to-win situations. The game's developer responded on Reddit, which quickly became the most downvoted Reddit comment of all time. This has started a debate on whether loot boxes should be labeled as gambling and be subjected to gambling laws.
The cybersecurity pioneer John McAfee has said that his Twitter account was hacked and used to promote lesser-known cryptocurrencies. The former presidential candidate is currently working on plans to sell the world's most hack-proof smartphone, but now finds his own smartphone was not safe enough to prevent an attack. McAfee is best known for founding a company that released the first commercial antivirus software. The McAfee virus scan helped spark a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we did speak with McAfee earlier this year in an interview about security concerns when it comes to social media.
Once you get the information into a database, it will be hacked, it will be let loose. This is just a fact of life these days and something we should be concerned about. But far more concerning to me is, how did it happen? It happened because companies like Google and Facebook acquired data on every one of us, what blogs we are visiting, even our messages that we pass on Facebook, our instant messages on Twitter, are accessible. And these things are collected so that we have no privacy.
McAfee took to Twitter to comment saying, "Though I am a security expert, I have no control over Twitter security." Also adding in an additional tweet, the fake account creators create them faster than Twitter and other platforms can remove them. My slower-witted followers actually believe the tweets and DMs from these accounts are actually me, so it does cause me some problems. So who acts the anti-hacker king? It's still unclear, though some suggest bots looking to drive specific cryptocurrency investments are behind it.
On January 1st, the state of California is set to begin sales of recreational marijuana, a market that is expected to reach $3.7 billion in 2018 alone. Research firm BDS Analytics adds in a report that the number will then increase to over $5 billion the year after. BDS goes on to say that California, which is the world's 6th largest economy, will be a huge chunk of the total North America market for cannabis. As of now, legal marijuana sales are predicted to hit $9.7 billion across the 7 states where recreational pot is legal, excluding California.
So here we are at the end of December, the end of another year. You see how cold it's been, especially up in the north. Look at that steam fog up on Lake Superior and Duluth. Last couple of weeks have been really, really cold, not only just for places like Duluth, but a lot of the country. And I want to take a look ahead at what the overall temperatures may look like in January, okay? This is a long-term forecast. And you see a lot of orange on the map. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be hot, by the way. That means that the temperatures are likely to be near or slightly above average. And you've also got to keep in mind with this forecast for the temperatures for January as a whole, that it's not always going to be above average if you live in one of these orange spots, okay? It's not always going to be below average if you live in one of the blue spots. So it looks like in the Northeast, temperatures a little bit below average. And I think by the time we get to about mid-January or so, probably looking at a little bit of a warm-up. That's why you see so much orange on the map. So we might break out of this nasty Arctic stuff we've had around for the last little bit. In the Southwest, still a lot of ridging. Basically, that means high pressure. Basically, that means temperatures above average and probably staying a little bit on the dry side.
There, it's like you're doing good for others, humans helping humans.
Meet the street thug barbers. During the week, Ross, Cameron, and Josh work at the city's top beauty salons. But every Sunday, they're cutting, combing, and styling here in Vancouver's downtown east side, a district where poverty and drug abuse are all too common, as Cameron knows for himself.
I have a history on the streets. I was a heroin addict, all that about 20 years ago. I cleaned up off that and battled opiates for the last 20 years. And then we started this, and that's pretty much when I did my last drug. The people down here, we're closer with them than some of our closest friends. They'll give you the last dollar out of their pocket if you need it.
What you should do is come next Sunday.
Ross also spent time in this same neighborhood, but he too found his way out through professional hairstyling. The idea behind the street thug barbers, he says, is that no one should give up, no matter how bad things get.
Cam and I, and we've all had our past situations where our failures may be someone else's successes in the future. So whatever we can do to help, whether it's find work or support or shelters or just an ear.
When it's warm enough, they work in a nearby park. They're non-paying customers perched on milk crates. They also cut hair on the sidewalk or in back alleyways. In winter, they do their cutting here at the Living Room, a drop-in center and clean needle distribution point for drug addicts. The manager says Sunday is the happiest day of the week for her clients.
And it's nice when you live in a society that when you're looked upon as being poor, that you're looked upon as being less of a human, and these guys don't do that at all. They lift us up, they give us comments and compliments. I mean, it's more than just a haircut.
I like it short, up over my ears.
No one who puts their name on a list run by the center is turned away. The Street Thug Barbers estimate they've trimmed and sheared more than 5,000 heads since they began a year and a half ago, bringing happiness and haircuts to a neighborhood known mostly for urban blight and homelessness.
So